The alarm rang through Luna Station at 0300 hours. Commander Jake Sullivan rubbed his eyes and sat up in his bunk. He had been sleeping for only 2 hours after a long shift checking defense systems around Earth's moon. The red lights flashed on and off in his small room. This meant emergency. This meant something big was happening. Jake put on his uniform and ran to the command center. Other officers were already there, looking at the big screen that showed star maps and data streams. Lieutenant Amy Davis turned to him with worried eyes. "Sir, we got a message from deep space. It came through the Galactic Communication Network. The computer is still working on translating it, but it looks urgent." Jake walked to the main console where Captain Ben Rogers was working with the translation software. The message was coming from a place very far away, many light years from Earth. The words slowly appeared on the screen as the computer figured out what they meant. "Commander, you need to see this," Ben said. His voice was quiet and serious. The message read, "To any who can hear this plea. We are the Velari of Velaros Prime. Our world is under attack. The Krex Empire has come to destroy us. We have no weapons to fight them. We have no ships for war. Please, someone help us. They are killing our people. They are taking our children. Time is running out." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had heard about the Velari before. They were a peaceful people who lived far away in another part of the galaxy. They were known for being very smart about medicine and healing. They never fought wars. They only wanted to help others and live in peace. How long ago was this sent? Jake asked. Amy checked her computer. "About 6 hours ago, sir. The signal traveled a long way to reach us." Jake picked up his communication device and called Admiral Lisa Parker on Earth. She answered quickly, even though it was very early in the morning. "Admiral, we have a situation. The Velari are asking for help. Someone called the Krex Empire is attacking them." There was silence for a moment. Then Admiral Parker spoke. "Send me everything you have. I'll wake up the Defense Council right away." 2 hours later, Jake was on a shuttle flying to Earth. He carried with him all the information they had about the Velari message. The trip took 4 hours, and during that time, more messages came from Velaros Prime. Each one sounded more desperate than the last. When Jake arrived at Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva, Admiral Parker was waiting for him. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been in charge of Earth's space defense for 10 years. Behind her stood Captain Ryan Brooks, her best tactical officer, and Colonel Steve Mitchell, who led the Space Marines. "Show me what we know," Admiral Parker said. Jake put the data on the big table screen. Pictures appeared showing the Velari homeworld. It was a beautiful planet with blue oceans and green lands. Cities with tall, curved buildings dotted the surface. But now, dark smoke rose from many places. Ships hung in the sky above the planet like angry wasps. "The Krex Empire," Ryan said, reading from his tablet. "We don't know much about them. Intelligence reports say they've been taking over star systems for the last 10 years. They have big ships and powerful weapons. Most species are afraid of them." Admiral Parker studied the images. "What about the Galactic Council? Aren't they doing anything?" Jake shook his head. "The Velari sent messages to them first. The Council has been talking about it for 2 weeks, but they can't agree on what to do. Some members are afraid the Krex will attack them too if they help." Colonel Mitchell leaned forward. "What kind of weapons do the Krex have?" "Energy beams that can break apart anything they hit," Ryan answered. "Bioships that can heal themselves. The reports say their smallest ship is bigger than our largest carrier. Most galactic species think they can't be beaten." Admiral Parker was quiet for a long time. She looked at the pictures of Velari families running from burning buildings. She saw children crying as their parents carried them to safety. The Krex ships fired down at the cities like they were playing a game. "What can the Valari offer us in return?" she asked. "Their medical technology is the best in the galaxy," Jake said. "They can cure diseases that kill millions of humans every year. They can help people live longer and healthier lives. But sir, even if they offered us nothing, we can't just let this happen." Admiral Parker nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. She picked up her secure phone and called Defense Secretary Helen Martinez in Washington. "Helen, I'm sending you a file. Look at it and call me back in 10 minutes. While they waited, more messages came from Velaros Prime. The Velari leader, Ambassador Thyses, sent a personal plea. His voice was translated by the computer, but Jake could hear the fear and sadness even through the machine words. "We know we are asking much. We know you humans are far away and do not know us well. But we have heard that your people fight for what is right. We have heard that you protect the weak. Please, if there is any kindness in your hearts, help us. We will share everything we have. Our medicine, our knowledge, our friendship. Just please, don't let our people die." The phone rang. It was Secretary Martinez. "Lisa, I've seen the files. This is horrible. What do you think we can do?" "We can help them," Admiral Parker said simply. "The Krex Empire has ships bigger than anything we've ever built. They have weapons we don't understand. Our intelligence says they've never lost a battle." Admiral Parker looked around the room at her officers. Jake saw determination in her eyes, the same look she had when Earth faced its first alien contact 5 years ago. "Helen, while other species are sitting in meetings and arguing about politics, people are dying. Children are being killed. The Velari asked for help, and we're the only ones willing to give it." There was a pause. Then Secretary Martinez spoke. "Again, how quickly can you get a fleet ready?" 48 hours for full deployment. We can have advanced scouts there in 36. Do it. Send everything we have." Admiral Parker smiled for the first time that day. "Yes, ma'am." She hung up the phone and turned to her officers. "Gentlemen, we're going to war. Get me the third fleet commanders on a conference call, and someone send a message back to the Velari. Tell them help is coming." Jake felt his heart beating faster. Earth had never fought a war this far from home. They had never faced an enemy like the Krex Empire. But as he looked at the pictures of Velari families in danger, he knew they had to try. The message went out across space that day. It was short and simple. "Velari people, this is Earth Defense Force. We have received your call for help. We are coming. Hold on." Admiral Lisa Parker stood on the bridge of the Hughes Valiant, watching hundreds of people work to prepare the ship for war. The huge carrier was the biggest ship in Earth's fleet, but compared to what they would face, it was still small. Around her, 12 destroyer ships were also getting ready. Crews loaded weapons, checked engines, and said goodbye to their families. Lieutenant Commander Nick Torres walked up to the Admiral with a tablet in his hands. His fighter pilots were working day and night to learn everything they could about Krex ships. The enemy vessels were unlike anything humans had ever seen before. "Admiral, we've been studying the data the Velari sent us," Nick said. "The Krex bioships are strange. They're alive somehow. They can fix themselves when they get damaged. Their weapons shoot beams that can tear apart metal like paper." Admiral Parker nodded. She had read the reports too. The Krex ships were grown, not built. They were like giant space creatures with thick skin and powerful weapons. Most galactic species used energy shields to protect their ships, but humans had never learned how to make them. Their ships used thick metal armor instead. "What about their weak spots?" she asked. Nick pointed to pictures on his tablet. "The Valari think the bioships have something like a brain at the center. If we can hit that, the whole ship might stop working. But getting close enough would be very hard. Captain Amy Watson joined them. She was Nick's best pilot and had been flying fighters for 8 years. Her squadron was practicing attack runs in the simulation rooms every day. "Admiral, my pilots are ready," Amy said. "Our fighters are smaller and faster than anything the Kreks have seen. Their big ships might have trouble hitting us." Admiral Parker looked out at the busy hangar where ground troops were loading their equipment. Colonel Steve Mitchell was training his Marines for something no human had ever done before: boarding alien ships and fighting inside them. "How are the Marines doing?" Admiral Parker asked. "They're scared but ready," Nick answered. "Colonel, Mitchell has them practicing in mock-ups of Krek's ship interiors. The aliens don't use doors like we do. Everything is round tunnels and organic walls." 2 days passed quickly. Engineers worked around the clock to load extra ammunition and supplies. The ship's nuclear missiles were checked and rechecked. Doctors prepared medical bays for wounded soldiers. Families came to the space stations to say goodbye to their loved ones. Captain Ryan Brooks brought Admiral Parker the final crew reports. "We have 2,600 people across all ships," he said. Everyone volunteered. "We had to turn away 3 times as many who wanted to come." The news channels on Earth were showing the fleet preparation all day. People gathered in public places to watch the broadcasts. Some protested that humans shouldn't get involved in alien wars. Others said it was their duty to help those who couldn't help themselves. Defense Secretary Helen Martinez came to the space station for the final briefing. She met with Admiral Parker and the other commanders in the secure meeting room. "The President wants you to know that Earth stands behind this mission," Secretary Martinez said. "But she also wants you to know that if things go badly, you can come home. No one will think less of you for retreating against impossible odds." Admiral Parker shook her head. "Ma'am, the Valeri are counting on us. Their children are dying while we talk. We're not coming home until this is finished." While the humans prepared, the Galactic Council was meeting again. Representatives from 40 different species sat in a huge chamber, arguing about what to do. Most of them thought the humans were crazy for trying to fight the Krek's Empire. Ambassador Dizes of the Valari spoke to them through a video link from his hiding place on Valaros Prime. Behind him, explosions lit up the sky. The sound of Krek's weapons could be heard in the background. "Honored council members," Dizes said, "while you debate, my people are being enslaved. The humans are the only ones who answered our call. They are coming to help us, even though they have never seen our world, even though we are strangers to them." A tall, blue-skinned alien from the Zephyrian Confederation stood up. "The humans are primitives. Their ships use crude nuclear weapons and metal armor. They will be destroyed in minutes by Krek's bioships. This will only make the Kreks angry with all of us." Another alien, this one looking like a large insect, clicked its mandibles together. "The Kreks have conquered 4 star systems. Their ships are nearly indestructible. The humans are brave, but bravery alone cannot win against such power." "Ambassador," Dizes looked tired and sad. "Then you will let my people die because you are afraid?" The council chamber became quiet. Many of the aliens looked uncomfortable, but none of them offered to send ships to help. Back on the Hughes Valiant, Lieutenant Ben Clark was checking his fighter for the 100th time. He was the youngest pilot in the squadron, only 22 years old. His hands shook a little as he tested the weapon systems. Captain Watson noticed and walked over to him. "Nervous?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," Ben answered honestly. "I've never fought aliens before. None of us have." Amy smiled. "Just remember your training. Fly fast, hit hard, and come home. That's all any of us can do." Major Kate Johnson was in the Marine section, going over maps of Velari cities with her. Troops, the Kreks had taken control of most of the planet's surface. If the human fleet could break the blockade in space, the Marines would need to go down and help free the Velari people. The aliens might try to use Velari civilians as shields, Major Johnson told her soldiers. We need to be very careful about what we shoot at. These people asked for our help. We can't hurt them while trying to save them. Sergeant Tony Martinez raised his hand. Ma'am, what if the Kreks try to surrender? Major Johnson thought for a moment. The intelligence reports say the Kreks don't surrender. They fight until they're dead or until they win. But if any of them do try to give up, we'll take them prisoner and treat them right. That's what makes us different from them. The final day came. Admiral Parker stood on the bridge as the last supply shuttles returned to base. The fleet was ready. Every ship had enough food, fuel, and ammunition for months of fighting. Every crew member knew this might be a one-way trip. Captain Brooks handed her a message tablet. Admiral, we just received this from Velaros Prime. It came through the emergency channel. The message was from Ambassador Thyses. It was short, but heartbreaking. Human friends, Kreks forces have taken our capital city. Millions of our people are now prisoners. They are loading them onto ships to take them away as slaves. Please hurry. We are running out of time. Admiral Parker closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her voice was firm and clear. All ships, this is Admiral Parker. Begin jump sequence to Velaros Prime. It's time to show the galaxy what humans do when someone asks for help. The great ships turned toward deep space. Their engines glowed brighter as they prepared to leap across the galaxy. Behind them, Earth watched and hoped. Ahead of them, an alien world waited for salvation that might never come dot in the fighter bay. Pilots climbed into their small ships. In the Marine sections, soldiers checked their weapons one last time. In the engine rooms, technicians prepared the nuclear reactors for battle. The Third Fleet jumped into hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes of two species and the promise that some fights are worth fighting, no matter how impossible they seem. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Velaros system. Admiral Lisa Parker stared at the view screen in shock. The Kreks blockade was worse than anything they had imagined. 8 massive bioships hung around the planet like giant monsters. Each one was the size of a small moon, their dark surfaces covered in what looked like thick skin and bone. My God, Captain Ryan Brooks whispered. How are we supposed to fight those things? The bioships were unlike any vessels humans had ever seen. They had no straight lines or metal surfaces. Instead, they looked like enormous sea creatures floating in space. Thick tentacles hung from their sides, and rows of glowing spots that might be weapons dotted their hulls. Lieutenant Commander Nick Torres was watching his scanner displays. Admiral, I'm picking up smaller ships too. Hundreds of them moving around the planet. They look like fighters or patrol boats. On the planet below, the beautiful blue and green world of Velaros Prime was covered in dark smoke. Cities that once gleamed in the sunlight now burned. The Kreks had been busy during the 3 weeks it took the human fleet to arrive. Communications. Try to reach Ambassador Thyses, Admiral Parker ordered. After a few minutes, the communication officer shook her head. No response from the surface, Mom. The Kreks are jamming most signals. But I'm getting something from the underground resistance. A weak voice came through the speakers. It was not Ambassador Thyses, but another Velari. Human ships, this is Zen of the Free Velari. Thyses was captured 2 days ago. The Kreks are loading our people onto slave ships. Please help us quickly. Admiral. Parker felt anger building in her chest. She turned to her weapons officer. What's our target priority? "The largest bioship first," Captain Brooks suggested. "It's probably their command vessel." On the Krex flagship, Commander Zaxt H was looking at his own displays. The strange ships that had just arrived were tiny compared to his mighty biovessels. He had fought many species over the years, and none had ever used such primitive-looking ships. "What are those things?" asked his second officer, Vextar. "Unknown," Zaxt H replied. "They appear to be using metal hulls and chemical propulsion. Very crude. Probably another delegation coming to beg for mercy." The Krex had seen this before. When they attacked a world, other species would sometimes send diplomatic ships to try to negotiate. These human vessels looked no different from the weak civilian ships they usually ignored. Admiral Parker was not interested in talking. "All ships, battle formation. Prepare for attack." The 12 human destroyers spread out in a line, with the Hughes Valiant in the center. Compared to the massive Krex bioships, they looked like toy boats facing whales. But the humans had something the Krex did not expect. "Captain Rodriguez, your ship has the honor of the first shot." Admiral Parker said over the communication system that Captain Danny Rodriguez commanded the destroyer UES Defender. He had been waiting for this moment since they left Earth. "With pleasure, Admiral." Launching nuclear missiles. 6 missiles shot out from the Defender, their engines burning bright as they raced toward the nearest Krex bioship. The aliens watched them coming and almost seemed amused. Energy weapons had never worked well against bioship armor. But these were not energy weapons, not the nuclear warheads, exploded against the bioship's hull in brilliant flashes of light. When the light faded, the Krex crew was no longer amused. Deep holes had been torn in their ship's thick skin. Green fluid leaked out into space like blood. Commander Zaxt H could not believe what he was seeing. Impossible. They're using nuclear fission weapons. What kind of primitives still use such crude technology? The damaged bioship turned toward the human fleet, its weapon ports glowing with angry red light. Beams of energy shot out, reaching for the small human ships. But the humans were ready. Evasive maneuvers. Admiral Parker ordered. The human ships scattered like fish avoiding a shark. Their smaller size and better engines let them move much faster than the huge bioships expected. The energy beams missed their targets, passing harmlessly through empty space. Lieutenant Commander Torres was already launching his fighter squadrons. 60 small ships poured out of the Valiant's hangar bays. Captain Amy Watson led the first group, diving toward the Krex vessels at full speed. "Remember, aim for the spots that look like eyes or mouths," Amy told her pilots. "Those might be weak points." The human fighters were tiny compared to the bioships, like mosquitoes attacking elephants. But they were fast and hard to hit. The Krex tried to target them with their main weapons, but the beams were too slow to track such small, quick targets. Lieutenant Ben Clark was flying his first real combat mission. His hands were steady now, all his nervousness gone. He fired his missiles at what looked like a weapon port on the side of a bioship. The explosion tore open a section of the alien hull. "Direct hit," Ben called over the radio. "Their armor isn't as tough as it looks." The Krex were starting to panic. These primitive humans were actually hurting them. Commander Zaxith ordered all bioships to focus their fire on the human carrier. If they could destroy the ship launching the fighters, the small craft would have nowhere to go. All 8 bioships turned their weapons toward the Hughes Valiant. Energy beams converged on the carrier from every direction. Admiral Parker watched death approaching her ship. "Brace for impact," she called out. The energy beams hit the Valiant's armor plating. The thick steel and ceramic plates absorbed some of the energy, but not all of it. Explosions rocked the ship from bow to stern. Fires started in 3 different sections. 20 crew members were killed instantly. but the Valiant was still flying. The redundant systems that humans built into all their ships kept the engines and weapons working. The bioships had expected their volley to destroy the carrier completely. Damage report. Admiral Parker shouted over the alarms. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7, Captain Brooks replied. We've lost 2 fighter bays, but the main hangar is still operational. We can keep fighting. The human destroyers had not been idle during the attack on the Valiant. While the bioships focused on the carrier, Captain Rodriguez and the other destroyer commanders had moved closer. They were now firing nuclear missiles at point-blank range. The bioships tried to turn their weapons back to the destroyers, but it was too late. Explosion after explosion tore through their hulls. One of the smaller bioships began to drift. Its weapon ports dark and silent. Colonel Steve Mitchell was watching the battle from the Marine deployment bay. His soldiers were suited up and ready for the most dangerous part of the mission. Admiral, we're ready to board. Not yet, Colonel, Admiral Parker replied. Let's soften them up a bit more first. Captain Watson's fighters had found something interesting. One of the bioships had what looked like a large opening near its center, possibly a hangar bay or breathing port. She led her squadron in a direct attack on this weak spot. All fighters, follow me in. Maximum firepower on that opening. The human fighters dove toward the bioship like a flock of angry birds. Their missiles and guns concentrated on the opening, tearing it wider with each hit. Suddenly, the entire bioship shuddered and went dark. I think we found their brain, Amy called out excitedly. Commander Zach's age was no longer confident. 3 of his bioships were badly damaged, and 1 was completely dead in space. These humans fought like nothing he had ever encountered. They used primitive weapons, but they used them very well. Send a message to the Krex High Command, he ordered. Tell them we need reinforcements. These humans are more dangerous than they appear. But the message would take weeks to reach the Krex homeworld. Right now, Commander Zaxith had to deal with an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. The human fleet pressed their attack. More missiles flew. More fighters swung around the bioships. And in the Marine bays, Colonel Mitchell's soldiers prepared to take the fight directly to the enemy. The battle for Valeros Prime had only just begun. Colonel Steve Mitchell watched through the viewport as his Marines prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. The used Defender had moved close to a damaged Krex bioship. The alien vessel was leaking green fluid and drifting without power, but it was still alive inside. Remember, we're going into something that's part ship and part animal, Colonel Mitchell told his troops over the radio. Stay together, watch each other's backs, and don't touch anything that looks like it might bite you. Major Kate Johnson led the first boarding team. 20 Marines in heavy armor followed her through the airlock and into the bioship's hull. They had cut a hole through the thick skin using plasma torches. The smell that came out was terrible. Like rotting meat mixed with chemicals. Inside the bioship, everything was curved and organic. The walls pulsed like they were breathing. Strange lights glowed from growths on the ceiling. The Marines had to crawl through tunnels that were made for aliens, not humans. This place gives me the creeps, said Sergeant Tony Martinez, keeping his rifle ready. It's like we're inside some giant monster. Just keep moving, Major Johnson replied. Intelligence says the control center should be toward the middle of the ship. The Marines moved carefully through the living corridors. Sometimes they heard noises ahead of them, like something large moving in the darkness. Twice they found Krex crew members, but the aliens ran away when they saw the heavily armed humans. Meanwhile, a space battle continued around them. Admiral Parker had ordered all remaining ships to focus fire on the largest bioship, Commander Zaxith's flagship. The alien vessel was trying to retreat, but the human destroyers were faster. Captain Danny Rodriguez pushed his ship harder than it had ever been pushed before. The U's defender's engines glowed white-hot as he chased the fleeing bioship. "Admiral, I've got a clear shot at their engine section." "Take it," Admiral Parker ordered. Nuclear missiles struck the bioship's rear section, tearing huge holes in what looked like organ systems. A massive vessel shuddered and began to slow down. Green fluid poured out into space like blood from a wound. Captain Amy, Watson's fighter squadron, was having their own success. They had found that the bioships could not track multiple small targets attacking from different directions. Her pilots split up and attacked the aliens from every angle at once. Lieutenant Ben Clark had become very good at finding weak spots on the bioships. He noticed that when the organic vessels tried to heal their wounds, they had to pull energy from their weapons. "Amy, if we keep hitting them in different places, they can't fix the damage fast enough." "Good thinking, Ben. All fighters, spread out and keep hitting them everywhere. Don't let them heal." Inside the bioship, Major Johnson's team had reached what looked like the control center. It was a large round room with walls covered in strange growths that pulsed with light. In the center stood 3 Krex aliens, tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. The Krex turned to face the Marines. One of them spoke in their own language, but the translation device on Major Johnson's helmet turned it into words she could understand. "Humans, you do not know what you are doing. This ship is alive. If you damage the nerve center, you will kill it." Major Johnson raised her rifle. "That's the idea. Surrender now, and we won't hurt you." The Krex looked at each other with their large eyes. They had never been in this situation before. No one had ever boarded their bioships and demanded they give up. "We do not surrender," the lead Krex said. "We are Krex. We conquer or we die." The alien reached for what looked like a weapon, but Sergeant Martinez was faster. His rifle fired 3 times, and the Krex fell to the organic floor. The other 2 aliens tried to run, but there was nowhere to go in the round room. "Secure the prisoners," Major Johnson ordered, "and someone find the ship's brain or whatever controls this thing." The Marines spread out through the control room. Everything was alive and moving slightly. Sergeant Martinez found what looked like a large brain-like growth in the wall. It was covered in veins that pulsed with light. "Ma'am, I think this is." He called out. Major Johnson looked at the alien organ. "Can we shut it down without killing it?" "I don't think so," Sergeant Martinez replied. "It's part of the ship. If we destroy it, the whole vessel will die." Major Johnson made a hard choice. These bioships had been used to attack peaceful people and take them as slaves. She planted an explosive charge next to the brain growth and set the timer for 30 seconds. "Everyone out! Move, move, move." The Marines ran through the organic corridors as fast as they could. Behind them, the bioship began to make terrible sounds, like a giant animal in pain. They reached their boarding shuttle just as the explosive went off. The bioship went completely dark. All its lights faded, and it stopped moving entirely. The living vessel was dead. "Admiral, this is Major Johnson. We've successfully killed 1 bioship from the inside. The method works." Admiral Parker smiled for the first time in hours. "Excellent work, Major. All boarding teams, you have your orders." Across the battlefield, more human Marines were cutting into damaged bioships. The Krex had never faced an enemy willing to board their vessels and fight inside them. Their bioships were designed to fight other ships in space, not to defend against soldiers crawling through their corridors. Commander Zax's age watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart from both outside and inside. The humans fought like nothing he had ever seen. They used crude weapons, but they used them with a skill and determination that was frightening. "Commander, we must retreat," his second officer pleaded. We have lost 5 ships already. Zaxith looked at the small human fleet. They had started with only 13 ships against his 8 massive biovessels. By all the rules of galactic warfare, the humans should have been destroyed in the first few minutes. Instead, they were winning. "Send the retreat signal," he said. Quietly, "We will return with a larger fleet." The remaining Krex bioships tried to escape, but the human destroyers were not finished with them. Captain Rodriguez and his fellow commanders chased the aliens to the edge of the system, firing missiles and coordinating with fighter squadrons to ensure none of the bioships escaped Dot by the end of the day. All 8 Krex vessels were either destroyed or captured. The blockade of Vileros Prime was broken. Human ships moved into orbit around the planet and began sending signals to the surface. "This is Admiral Parker of the Earth Defense Force. Vileros Prime is free. The Krex fleet has been destroyed." From hiding places all over the planet, Velari voices answered. They were crying with joy and relief. The nightmare was over. 3 days. Later, Colonel Mitchell's Marines were on the planet's surface, helping to free Velari prisoners from Krex camps. The aliens had built large compounds where they kept the captured Velari before loading them onto slave ships. Major Johnson found Ambassador Theises in one of these camps. The old Velari leader was weak and injured, but alive. When he saw the human soldiers, tears ran down his face. "You came," he whispered. "You really came." "We said we would," Major Johnson replied, helping him to his feet. News of the human victory spread quickly through the galaxy. The Galactic Council was shocked. No one had ever defeated the Krex Empire in open battle. The species that other aliens thought were primitives had done the impossible. Within a week, Admiral Parker began receiving new messages. They came from all over the galaxy, from species that were being attacked or threatened by various enemies. All of them asked the same thing: "Please help us like you helped the Velari." Admiral Parker stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, looking at the list of requests for help. Captain Brooks handed her another message tablet. "Admiral, this one is from the Zephyrian Confederation. They're being invaded by something called the Iron Legion. They're offering to share their shield technology if we help them." Admiral Parker nodded. The Velari had already begun sharing their medical knowledge with Earth. Human doctors were learning to cure diseases that had killed people for thousands of years. Now, other species wanted to trade their technologies for human protection. "Prepare the fleet for another mission," Admiral Parker said. "It looks like we're going to be busy." On Earth, the news channels were calling it the greatest military victory in human history. But for the men and women of the Third Fleet, it was just the beginning. The galaxy had learned something important. When someone cried for help, the Deathworlders didn't send diplomats or supplies or committee meetings. They sent warships. And those warships got the job done.